Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abhishek Chaudhary from CICDT department. A very warm welcome to all the colleagues and participants and speakers to the third edition of DX Summit organized by CII and Center for Digital Transformation. The program is being run on CII Hive platform as well, where we have around 4,000 participants registered. I welcome the speakers of the session on digitization automotive value chain from manufacturing to retail, mobility service, and connected infrastructure. Before we begin, I would like to request all the speakers to keep their mics on mute or unmute while speaking. I also request speakers to keep the video on when they are speaking or presenting. The session will be moderated by Ms. Suchetna Ray, Editor Outlook Business. The other esteemed speaker of the session are Mr. B.C. Datta, Vice President Ola Electric, Ms. Prerna Ghosh, Mr. Parna Ghosh, Vice President or Group CIO, UNO Minda, Mr. Bala Subramaniam, General Manager Production Engineering, Toyota Motors, Mr. Amitav Sahai, GM Manufacturing, Tata Motors, Mr. V. Ranganathan, Group CIO, JBM Group, Mr. Anand Venkat Raman, Senior Director, Dell Technologies, Mr. Deepak Verma, Vice President, Solution Delivery Excellence, Fifth Generation Technologies, and Mr. Vikram Kumar Yeram, Country Manager, Manufacturing and Distribution Industry, HP India. I request participants to type their questions in the Q&A section on CI Hive, and we will take them at the end of the session. Now, I would like to take a minute here to briefly introduce Ms. Suchetna Ray. Suchetna is the editor of Outlook Business, India's leading business magazine on corporate affairs and economic policy. She leads the business and economic coverage for all the Outlook Group offering. With an overall experience of more than 1.5 decades across television, print, and digital media, she has broken news stories, interviewed corporate leaders, and analyzed business strategies of top companies and governments business of the country, largest media houses. Now, without much delay, I would now like to invite Ms. Suchetna Ray to kindly take up the session forward. Over to you, Suchetna.
Thank you very much for those kind words. And welcome to all of you on this session where the topic at hand is digitization of automotive value chain. And we will discuss the entire ecosystem from manufacturing to retail, mobility services, and connected infrastructure. Before I go ahead and introduce each speaker, I'll just take a minute to talk a little bit about the topic at hand. We're talking about digitization, a theme that has been brought on and also accelerated by the pandemic. And we've seen how the entire automotive ecosystem has rapidly digitized itself. And this digitization, if you look closely, has happened perhaps across two key themes. The first is the rise of the connected vehicles, and the second is the digitization of the entire value chain. And when we say the entire value chain, we mean from manufacturing to retail, mobility services, and connected infrastructure. And therefore, this is a crucial topic that we will discuss today with our esteemed guests. Digital technologies, as we know, are creating a value for the automotive industry by breaking what we know is the set pattern. Let us see what the future holds and at what stage of digitization the Indian automotive sector is at currently. Without wasting any more time, I'll quickly welcome the panelists today. We have Mr. B.C. Datta. He's the Vice President of Ola Electric. Welcome to you. We have Mr. Parna Ghosh, Vice President Group CIO, UNO Minda Group. Mr. Bala Subramaniam, he's the General Manager Production Engineering at Toyota Motors. We have Mr. Amitav Sahai, GM Manufacturing, Tata Motors. Mr. V. Ranganathan, Group CIO, JBM Group. Mr. Anand Venkatraman, Senior Director, Dell Technologies. Mr. Deepak Verma, Vice President, Solution Delivery Excellence, Fifth Generation Technologies. And Mr. Vikram Kumar Yaram, Country Manager, Manufacturing and Distribution, Industry Vertical, Hewlett Packard Enterprises, India Private Limited. Welcome to all of you. And let's dive straight into the discussion at hand. So as we all know what the topic is, let me open the floor by asking you one question, the same question to all of you, and you present your points of view before we dive into a debate and discussion on the topic. My first question is, what is the current state and the future of digitization for the automotive value chain in India? We would like to begin with Mr. B.C. Datta. Over to you, sir.
Suchetna, I think there is some technical glitch. He is not in the lobby. He may be joining afterwards. So you may take up
Okay.
the question with the
Let
speaker.
us then move to Mr. Porno Ghosh, the Vice President and Group CIO of Uno Minda Group. Mr. Ghosh, the same question, which is what is our current state of digitization and what does the future hold? Mr. Ghosh.
Good morning, all of you, and thanks for joining CIA initiative of DX Ensemble. Say, uh, this automotive industry, I'll say, is going through a huge disruption from 2018. If you see, let's go back few years back. 2018, the first time the automotive industry went down from the earlier growth, trajectory, and then we all had a lot of cost cuttings and all the organizational restructuring is going on for most of the organizations, including the OEMs and ancillaries and everyone. And then the opportunity came to revive the strategies again because of the upswing in the market, and then it was hit by pandemic in 2020, and followed by that continuously one thing or the other. And today also you saw this Russia attacking Ukraine and all this stuff is going on. So obviously there will be a negative sentiment in the market, and obviously oil prices will go up, and many other global scenarios will change. So looking at all the disruptions, automotive industry as a whole, if I say, including the OEMs, had already decided a few years back for robust and rapid digitization. And when I say digitization, it is basically talking about shop floor digitization, it is talking about supply chain digitization, it is talking about the support functions like HR, finance, or materials, or something like that, and at the same time moving rapidly towards cloud. So if you see the all these strategies are going for most of the organizations, including ours as well. And when we were going towards this journey, we have also observed that many organizations were still at the backdrop of Industry 3.0, somewhere at the age of 4.0, something like that. And now we are talking about Industry 4.0, rapid digitization in across the all the organizations, and how to make smart manufacturing, better visibility of the shop floor, better supply chain resilience, better support functions. Say for an example, we have in finance 100% all the functions are digitized, including the treasury management's function, the supply chain financing function, the compliance function, everything is in digitized apart from the core SAPs and stuff like that. So I think looking at all these areas, HR also, even we have done the digital HR implementation, success factor or something like that. So looking at all the functions, I think digitization and digitalization parallelly is going on very fast in most of the organizations. People are looking at keeping pace with the current trends, and also higher visibility, higher reaction time, better analytics and better analysis for the business. And the leaders are expecting real-time information on a daily basis so that they can react very fast onto the market and onto the decisions. And the journey is still continuing. I believe next few years this journey is going to continue till the time when all of the organizations go into a different and a better, I will say, scenarios. Obviously then the journey will continue to stabilize, and then again leapfrog to the next journey. That is how the things are changing and growing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ghosh. I would like to invite the next speaker to talk on the same topic, which is Mr. Bala Subramaniam. We're discussing about the current state of digitization of the automotive value chain and what is the future expectation. Mr. Subramaniam.
Good morning
Good morning.
for this conference.
Over to you.
Thank you. And this topic is very interesting in the sense like auto industry, in my opinion, not seen.
Mr. Subramaniam, if you could be a little louder, your voice is a little muffled.
Can you hear me
Thank
now? Yeah. See, what
Yeah,
my
much
opinion
better.
is,
Yes.
auto industry is not facing this turmoil for the first time. As you can see, from 2008, we had Goldman Sachs, and many such ups and downs it has seen in the market, and it has bounced back many times. And as late as the last couple of years back, when the government announced EV policy, the basic, I mean, thinking of IC engine improvement itself collapsed with the advent of EV technologies, and there has to, IC technology based industries has to adapt to this change and move forward. So what I want to say is the change is inevitable, and we have seen turmoils, and auto industry is managing and able to uh, come out of this situation. And auto industry is also a prime mover of economy. Uh, any improvement in auto sector definitely will boost many other sectors parallelly. So such being the case, the digitalization of auto industry is something feather in the cap for development of auto industries. What I see last couple of years, digitalization is mainly focused in tier one OEMs particularly. Why? Because the one is awareness factor. I feel awareness of the benefits of digitalization is not to the extent penetrated to the supply chain down the line, particularly up to MSMEs. It's a long way, uphill task. So I feel at this moment OEMs are to a certain extent getting benefited, and in OEMs also there are independent systems, silos of systems still exist. I feel the connectivity of the system is the next step. Only then we can see wholesome or comprehensive digitalization that can take fruit. That is the that is going to be the next step. So definitely, many industries OEMs have got benefited through digitalization. Like we can say, digital twin has brought in many development in the product, and also vision system, for example, has brought an electronic eye into the manufacturing setup. There are many such instances of development, but I see it's bits and pieces. It takes a long time to go forward. Of course, COVID-19 has put a lot of brake on the capex for digitalization as of now, and as today's Russian attack will further bring certain amount of hesitation in terms of investment. Uh, but I see coming days in future, there is a bright future as far as the digitalization is concerned, because it has a direct impact on the bottom line. So there is a possibility of reducing the cost and also optimizing resources. And I observed that the basic understanding of the digitalization itself is lacking in many industries, because once they feel digitalization, it's one more gadget being added to the system, without understanding the total impact that concept is going to bring to the industry. So we will not be able to reap complete benefit out of it. So what I feel is, apart from the technologies that is coming in future, also it's going to come. My gut feeling is there should be awareness campaign, lot of aggressive awareness campaign required down to the MSME in the supply chain to make it more effective. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will move to our next speaker, Mr. Sahai of Tata Motors. Do you agree with Mr. Balasubramanian when he says that future disruptions, be it another wave of the pandemic or the Russia-Ukraine escalating crisis, will have an impact on the future of digitization? What kind of impact do you envisage? Do you think that investment into it will also be impacted because of these disruptions? Mr. Sahai, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. So it's a very interesting point that Bala just mentioned. So definitely, it's about if we generalize, it is about the VUCA world. And when we talk about the VUCA world, automotive industry is the one which gets most affected. So as an industry, the way we need to prepare as an automotive industry is about to be ourselves prepared into the current present system that is being coming in. So if you compare the conventional way of automotive industry, in the conventional way of automotive and running an automotive industry was only to produce, sell, and then to service. So these were the three major areas where, if you take the revenue coming out at 70 to 80% would be part of the production part of it. Now, with this connected manufacturing and connected vehicles and the other shared mobility services coming in, this is a I would say a segment that has come up, and that's the key driver for the automotive industry, not only for the passenger vehicles, also for the commercial vehicles. So that's a very, very important point that he has brought. So as an industry, what we need to do is to prepare ourselves so that, you know, whatever may be the challenges, so whatever may be the challenge, one can take care of that. So just bringing more depth into the subject, if it's okay, may I just present a slide to bring my point more forward?
Sure, go ahead, please.
So I think maybe you can just give them access to that.
I would request the host to give access to Mr. Sahai to present a slide.
Given.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So is the slide visible?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes, visible.
thanks. So it's about, if when we talk about an automotive industry, so what comes is first the customer, then we have a dealers through which this particular segment works, and then you have an assembly line. So this assembly line produces the vehicles based on the customer demands. So and then just connecting to the point that you said, where are we in the current state? So the current state is it is more of producing to the way the market trends move and the way we have our demands that needs to be fulfilled to the customer. Moving forward, where the customer is going to be the driver and they would decide wherein the customization will take place. So that's where typically in an automobile industry, what you call about is a hijunka, that comes into picture, so that different products, different models, they need to be produced on the same line in a synchronized manner so that you have the delivery at the time that is required. To do that, what you require is an aggregate. So when we talk about the aggregate, which is here at point 2, it talks about synchronizing the production and the delivery of those aggregates, be it in-house or be it from outside, so that it matches to the sequence, to the tunes of the main assembly line, which is aligned to the customer. And then you have the small parts. That's where the value chain and the supply chain becomes very critical part of the system, where they also need to provide just in time what we learned from the Japanese Toyota systems. So to summarize, what three areas, if I say, would be the key focus area and very important and critical as we move ahead on the digitization, and the journey has started for, I would say, for most of the automotive industries, is when we talk about the logistics. It's about the inbound logistics, when the supplier needs to send his materials or his parts to the warehouse, and then from the warehouse to the plant, and subsequently from the plant to the area of use. So presently it is more of a push pay and a manual based system. But moving forward, when you have these technologies, which all the other retail business now like Amazon and others have, the supply chain is very quickly following that and using and adopting those technologies. For example, when we talk about this inbound logistics, you have a fleet management system which takes care and tracks the vehicles so that you have a complete warehouse management being tracked. Then when we talk about the transportation and the next forward, you have technologies like RFIDs, you have technologies like LoRa. These are technologies which is helping the automobile vendor partners to actually synchronize themselves to the need of the customer, which is the plant. And then when you talk about safety, when you talk about this new generation where it's everything is about optimization and reduction of manpower. So there a lot of technologies like AGVs and others come into picture. So by doing this is the journey which the supply chain are taking forward, and they are progressing to meet to the future challenges of digitalization, which will help them not only to reduce their throughput time, but also to reduce their own inventory as well as net automobile inventory. And what the speaker was mentioning about the operation, that's an area where it's about operation efficiency, where this digitalization is helping a lot. We talked about the 3D printing. So this is where, now when you think of a model, how quickly you give to the market is what is the need of the day. So this is where digital twin and 3D printing technologies are helping to reduce the design time, and the proto designs help them. And then when you have this complex VUCA world, and when you need to meet the customer demands, then order management and broadcasting, which was earlier done as a part of a SAP interface and other ERP interface, only at a plant level. Now this is being liberated not only to a plant, but also to the vendor partners at tier 1 and tier 2, so that each production and each the customer requirement is known not only at the plant, but also at different levels. While these two are important for understanding the customer and meeting the customer requirement, what is very important is to have the operational efficiency in place. So that's where real-time monitoring, be it energy, be it equipment health, these become a very important and a critical factor. That's where all these IoT devices, real smart energy meters, smart condition monitoring meters, especially we have paint shop, we have foundry, which are process plants, and these process plants cannot go under shutdown. So a lot of predictive and a prescriptive maintenance modules are now available, and thanks to the technology which is there and which is being liberated by the industry, we are using, and the industry is using that to prepare themselves for future. While these two are about getting data, but what is more important and the leverage, the real hidden, the goal that is today is about the data. So that's where a lot of algorithms of machine learning and artificial intelligence are being used to actually understand and create the business insights, so that one can prescribe a model that will help. So all these are very critical for the overall growth, sustainability, and cost reduction for the industry. And remember, the last but not the least is about the customer. Now, when we design the entire thing, what is very important for the future for the industry is about aligning the vehicle digital profile with the customer digital profile. So that was all.
Thank you, Mr. Sai. We'll move to Mr. Ranganathan, Group CIO, JBM Group, for his views. We've been waiting. We want to hear the OEM view on the topic at hand. We're discussing the current state of digitization and what the future holds, whether if there are more disruptions in the nature of, say, another wave of the pandemic, or geopolitical tensions such as the Russia-Ukraine war, what would be the impact on the current process of digitization that the sector is seeing? Mr. Ranganathan.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm going to have some illustration comparing how automotive is far behind as far as digitization is concerned. I'm going to take two examples. One is solar division, which has done. Number two is waste to energy. Let us try to understand because they have gone much ahead than specifically on auto component division. 6 years back, we deployed a solar farm, which is 500 acres of land where power is getting generated, and which is being maintained by only 15 employees. Number two, you have to understand the scale. The important thing is how the different hardware which has been installed in the whole, all the machines are trying to give data about its health. Number one, whether it is how much power it is generating, number one. Number two, how efficient it is. Number three, if it is not working, it is sending signals. These are all the pulses. And using the centralized SCADA system, we are in a position to prevent the problem. That's number one. Number two, the power generation, depending upon the weather condition, it changes. So accordingly, what kind of maintenance if we do, how frequently we should do, we are in a position to ascertain and then make the power what we have, what we wanted is achieved. That is one way of doing that. The waste to energy division, because it is going to be health related problems are going to be there. the whole of the plant has been digitized in such a way, no one is going to the production floor area, and it is being centrally monitored by 8 employees per shift, where they are generating 7 megawatts of power on a continuous basis. What learning we have got from this is, if the solution, because auto component division has a legacy, that's number one. Number two, we have very baggages also, because many people are experienced. The chances of bringing in technology will be a hindrance because of their vast experience. So using these two industries, we were in a position to highlight the other our other division, that if we are bringing the right technology or whatever interventions, technology interventions, we will be in a position to perform right. We were fortunate, because many might have not got this opportunity, because these two industries, from day one, you have no other option of deploying without digital. They have adapted it from day one. That has really opened our eyes. What does this reflect? 4 years back, we were in a position to take a cautious call, and then we have created a company specifically for AI, third AI, where we started focusing on developing some in-house products, which is going to help all our 50 manufacturing plants of auto parts components, where we can use the technology to increase the efficiency of the machine, man, or we can improve the bottom line. So the pandemic has helped leveraging the thought process which we have got, because in the first 2 years, if you look at it, we were not in a position to convince the respective business heads, but with the help of two different businesses like solar and waste, plus the pandemic has initiated thought into the employees of auto component division, and from there we are really going in a right direction. Yes, we have very a long way to cover, but yes, it is very encouraging, and it is going the way, and we started selling this product to outside JBM also. That is one of the biggest advantages which we never thought when we started 4 years back. But yes, right intervention, right thought process has enabled us to harness the technology advantage.
Here, I'll move to Mr. Venkatraman of Dell Technologies with the same question. What do you think are the digitization tools that the sector needs right now to brace itself for the future?
Hey, sure. Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. If I can present some slides to just substantiate my point, that'll be good. So if you can give me access.
Request the host to give access, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me know if you can see the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we can. Yes.
All right. So again, see, our perspective is from the impact of digitization in the auto sector. There are 5 big disruptions that happened, right? So one is the fundamental business model in the auto structure in the auto sector is going to change. The second is because every industry is becoming digital, every industry is becoming a technology company. Auto sector is also becoming a technology player, right? And so there are going to be new applications which are coming in, which are going to be impacting the way auto sector is going to go. Then I think the autonomous vehicles, that's going to increase as we go. And then as we know that each of these automobiles are becoming more and more digital, they are producing lots of data, and aggregating these data and making sense of the data, monetizing the data. Again, that's another a major opportunity that throws. And then the last but not the least is basically the interconnected vehicles, right? In digital highways, etc. How are you going to kind of manage the challenge as we go along? If you look at, again, if you look at the paradigm shift in automotive, right? If you look at the earlier, I mean, during the 2015 to 2020, the traditional profit pools were basically the classic parts, the new car sales, financing, aftermarkets, etc. Right? And some of those emerging pools were just starting to become relevant. But if you look at how this is kind of playing out in a decade right now, right, where this is going to kind of go many folds, the emerging pools are going to kind of take over 40% of the overall, I don't know how many trillion market it is, but 40% of that is going to go into emerging pools. And when that paradigm shift happens into the emerging pools, you can also see there are going to be new companies that are going to get formed. So if you see, the ecosystem currently is all the automotive incumbent players. But if you look at the right-hand side, there are a lot of technology organizations who are going to come into the picture and change that paradigm, right? So there is a big paradigm shift that's happening as we go into the next decade. So again, to just substantiate that point, if you look at this one slide, if you look at globally, all of the major incumbent automobile manufacturers are tying up with technology companies and converting themselves into technology players. Be it Ford, be it Volvo, be it Toyota, be it GM, any big company, right? They are basically tying up with one or multiple. They're either doing M&A, they're either doing partnering with some of the big technology players, and then eventually by the time we reach the 2030, they want to become a technology player in this bigger ecosystem and try to get as much as the pie of that multi-trillion-dollar business, right? So the other bigger the technology opportunity that exists both in India and outside is something called the mobility as a service platform, right? Again, look at it, right? As we get into that 2030s, etc., it's going to be a connected world, right? So again, personal mobility, it's going to be how do you share mobility? So it's going to be the world of sharing mobility, etc. Which means that let's say you go mobility on demand, go for a mobility on demand platform. Is there a way an insurance can be automatically provisioned for the 2 hour of trip that you are going on a autonomous vehicle, right? So let's say you want to go from Nariman Point to Bandra in Bombay, right? There is a autonomous vehicle coming and picking you up. You can basically automatically select which insurance provider that you need to basically sign up for that 1 hour trip, right? Possible, right? And then if you look at, so again, which means that you need a platform to connect all these players. When you're talking about multiple players, we are talking about the automotive companies, we are talking about the finance companies, we are talking about the ride sharing, we are talking about the smart city, and then we are also talking about the connected platforms where the Teslas, and the other bigger electric manufacturers who are basically going to be connected into the ecosystem through the 5G play, right? So if you look at it again, this throws tremendous opportunities for new players, new startups, and for the technology companies to start creating a differentiated offering to the customers, right? Again, that said, again, what happens? Will we actually go buy a car in the future? Yes, there are people who still want to go buy a car in the future, but then the right, I definitely don't want probably always going. I definitely want to have a car, but then what is going to be the experience of buying a car? We will look at virtual showrooms. We will look at possibilities of us maybe buying something completely online, maybe a completely customized car with the color of the car, the color of the seating, the accessories, all that can be completely customized, and that can be brought sitting at home on a few clicks, right? And so again, that throws a completely new possibility for e-commerce and a lot of other things like Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world to come into the sector and basically work with automotive players to, for example, things like sentimental analysis that currently that happens in that world, right? How many clicks does it take to buy something that a customer wants, right? So similarly, those sentimental analysis can be brought to that sector where, hey, somebody's really excited to buy, for example, a BMW electric car at that time. He's definitely attracted, but let's not dissuade him by showing the price point at that point of time, but then let us persuade him by showing the capabilities, getting him that emotional connect to the vehicle, and getting him to go click the buy button and produce the credit card to make the sale, right? So all this is going to kind of get driven by technology in the future. There are multiple agencies, multiple ecosystems that will come together in the future to kind of make it happen. So I think, again, all this is already the use cases, several use cases are already right now in play. But I feel from an India perspective, in another decade, all this will come into India, and also because of our push to infrastructure, those beautiful roads we have across the country, more and more people will want to buy nice cars instead of flying, instead of going by trains. I would like to drive my own car if I'm going to multiple cities across India. So I think technology, infrastructure, and the growth in India is definitely going to fuel this industry, and this is going to be one of the best industries in the next 10 years. And that's my hypothesis. Time will be a proof of this hypothesis. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Venkatraman. Yes, even the finance minister is, I'm guessing, appreciative of your view, and therefore the massive allocation to infrastructure and road building that we saw in the budget this time. I'll move to Mr. Deepak Verma of Fifth Generation Technologies for his views. There are very important points that Mr. Venkatraman raised about the changed customer data and the use of data. We will come back to that those points when we dive into the debates. As of now, I'll request Mr. Verma of Fifth Generation Technologies to present his points as far as the current state and the future needs of digitization are concerned in the sector. Mr. Verma, over to you.
I was muted. Thanks, Sujetna. Good morning, everyone. I think the current state of digitization has been discussed, and I do see shall I say, a divide or a clear differentiation between a set of players, maybe the OEMs, and to some extent the tier one suppliers who have embraced digitization. But if you look at the entire digitization value chain, if you see the small and medium business does constitute a substantial percentage of the supply chain for the automotive sector. And as we speak, I don't see the small and medium enterprises embracing it as much as they should. And there are 2-3 reasons for that. There is one reason is, as I think Mr. Ghosh mentioned, that they do not, or I think it was Amita who said that they don't understand the, shall I say, the benefits that accrue because of the digitization. The second point is maybe I think they consider this as a very high investment and something which requires, huge IT infrastructure. I need to have an IT manager and things like that. And I think the future of the digitization will depend on how, or the extent of digitization will depend on how this particular sector comes along. As they say, this is a chain, and the weakest link is the strength of the chain. So if the chain, if the small and medium enterprise chain is the part of that the chain is weaker, I think the entire digitization process could have its own challenges. Having said that, one thing what we should do as an organization or as an industry is to see how to make solutions which are affordable and which can be used by these companies also, so that the entire value chain gets the benefit of the digitization. On your question on whether the sector is ready for another eventuality like this, I hope it doesn't happen, because I don't think I can personally go through one more eventuality. But having said that, I think we should not look at digitization as a means to overcome an eventuality like a COVID. If you look at it, then I think the focus may go off. What we need to look at is to see the benefits of digitization irrespective of COVID. I think COVID maybe accelerated this, but I think at any point of time, digitization has its own benefits, which can help sustain the journey irrespective of an eventuality. That's my viewpoint.
Thank you so much, Mr. Verma. Mr. Datta is back. He was supposed to go first. He's back, but Mr. Datta, I would request you to just wait till we go to Mr. Vikram Kumar Yaram and take his inputs and then come back to you. Mr. Yaram, over to you.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Suchetna. Very interesting discussion, and we at HPE are working with many large automotive manufacturers in the two-wheeler, four-wheeler, and even in the commercial vehicle space. And I think what Amitava said in terms of new product development, in terms of the kind of services that they're providing, and also what Mr. Ranga from JBM talked about, connectivity and plant automation, I think that's an absolute reality. So Suchesna, we are seeing customers digitize and automate in three, four broad areas. First is in terms of infrastructure augmentation. So they are looking at their large ERP system, plant automation systems, and trying to refresh them either with something completely new or with a technology that is latest and best. That is number one. Number two, in terms of automation, it is just not in terms of plant automation that Mr. Ranga spoke about, because of COVID, when there were restrictions of the number of people who could go to the plant, and also a lot of automation has happened in the plant side, but also in the general employee side, because companies still want to give the flexibility to employees of working from anywhere. So that is also means that you need to have the right connectivity, the right kind of access provided to those employees, whether they are operating from a particular office in a particular city or from different offices in different cities. So that is really seeing companies spend a lot of money around wireless, Wi-Fi, and technologies around that. Number three, in terms of automation at the edge, and Mr. Ranga spoke about the kind of matrices that they're collecting from the machines and systems. So that industrial IoT and the edge is becoming very, very powerful, and companies are putting a lot of money in trying to harness the power of the kind of analytics they are getting at the edge, and trying to make some realistic and meaningful decisions, and also support with higher SLAs, and give better uptimes to business. So that is number three. And we also see this as a great opportunity because of what happened in the last probably 2 years. There is a lot of pent up demand that we see in the market, and whether it is any company, I think they have a huge backlog, primarily because there is a sudden surge of demand, because people really postponed their decisions of buying a new car or a new two-wheeler or whatever, but also slight kind of a rush because of the electronic component shortage that we are seeing globally in terms of the chips and all in the automotive industry. So really a lot of money being pumped into new product innovation, and in terms of servicing the customer, how do you reach the customer? And as one of the panelists, I think that was Venkat, who presented, what is happening on the showroom side. I think these days customers are not willing to really wait for a test drive. They're really going and selecting the car that they like, the color and stuff like that, and also going through the social media platforms and seeing what kind of reviews people are posting about them, and making a decision about that. and just going ahead and booking their vehicles. So that is something very, very interesting. And also from a dealer retailer perspective, also it has become very, very important. How do they get to where the customer is instead of waiting for the customer to come to them? I think that is also one very, very important transition. And we are also seeing a lot of automotive companies also getting into this. Instead of buying a car, how do you subscribe for a car? And I think there are a lot of new players, whether it is Zoom or Droom, or also telling you to change your car every 1 year. I think that is also going to be a very, very disruptive trend that we are going to see in the market, where the longevity of using a particular vehicle will come down, maybe from 7 years or 5 years down to maybe 3 years. So that is also going to see a lot of refresh happening on the way the customers are going to buy cars. Thank you.
Mr. Yoram, I can see Mr. Datta is part of the list of participants here, but I'm not too sure if he will be able to join us. What I'm told is that he has connectivity issues. Mr. Datta, if you're here, would you like to take a stab at the question and the discussion that we are having? I'm guessing.
Please move ahead.
Sorry?
No, he's not able to join in. You may move ahead, please.
Okay, then let's move on with the discussion. There are key things that came out of the initial comments that all of you made. I have divided them up into 3 different discussion points. I'll first go to the customer. Because of the digitization as well as the pandemic, we've seen that the customer has changed significantly across sectors. It's not something which is just peculiar to the auto sector. We know whether it's retail, it's IT, the customer has essentially changed. With this question, I'll first go to Mr. Ghosh and Mr. Ranganathan. We know that how the customer expectation has completely changed in most B2C companies, but tell us your perspective from a B2B company perspective. How much has customer expectation changed? We've read reports that how customers now want everything on the app, everything has to be 2 clicks or 3 clicks. Is it the same that you also face in a B2B company? I'll go to Mr. Ghosh first and then come to Mr. Ranganathan. Mr. Ghosh.
Yep. So, we call in the industry call Uber experience. So Uber experience, I think, happened. I think now it's almost 5, 6 years, or maybe slightly more than that. Uh, so this Uber experience is actually changed the mindset of the B2C, as you rightly pointed out, the B2C consumers, and then the Amazons and the Flipkarts have also changed the perception of buying. Then came Zomatos and Swiggy's also. Again, they have disrupted the market, how to buy food and consume that. So looking at those things, the B2B customers as well are also moving towards the complete digital way of interaction. So when I say digital way of interaction, say for an example, earlier our team used to visit the Tata Motors or Marutis or Mahindras or Hondas, and used to bid for the discussions for the our new RFQs, or new models, or some engineering standards, or certain new innovations, or any kind of support issues, quality issues. Now everything is happening digitally today. Second thing is, customers are also building a lot of applications through which people can easily digitally connect with those platforms and do the interactions digitally. Many customers are coming up with kind of reverse auction mechanisms. So reverse auction mechanisms means they will float the RFQ and you can bid on that, and automatically the system tells you, or whatever manual judgment is there at the back end, it tells you who wins the bid or something like that. So this way, first of all, the interactions are changing. Second thing, most of the meetings are happening like this kind of digital platforms which are using right now. And when you are sitting from your home, or sitting from some other remote places, or you're from your office, or you have a hybrid way of working style, so you also expect the person who is on the other side also is reactive enough to respond to you on a timely manner. Look at the timelines which we are having. Before pandemic, we were working 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever. Now the timelines have actually increased to 12 hours, 14 hours, because people are saying, oh, Acha, you are working from home, so let's connect around 8 o'clock in the evening. You are having 9 o'clock in the evening meetings, or maybe early morning 6 o'clock meetings. I mean, these things have completely disrupted the working style and working hours, apart from the platform. So the expectations have multiplied a lot. And last but not the least, because at the end of the day, the end users, I'm talking about the end users who are using the cars or the two-wheelers at the end, their expectations also multiply, grown, or I will say their expectations have completely gone for like an Uber experience. So the OEMs are also expecting similar kind of response time from you. Say for an example, a last example I'll give. Earlier RFQ timeline would have been 3 months time. Okay, after within 3 months you can respond to the RFQ and put your bid into the place. Now the RFQ timelines have broken down to weeks and even days. So people are asking, please come out with different innovative ideas and respond to me very, very fast. So, in the whole process, you need to also look at your supply chain, your ecosystem, your employees, your, employee experience as well, how to change that ecosystem so that you can respond to your CX or the customer expectation. I think that is what the cultural change has happened during this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ghosh. I'll go to Mr. Ranganathan.
See, over and above what Parnas said, it is more visible. We are collaborating with the customer, the so-called customer, the B2B customer we are talking, that during the NPD only we are involved because we are collaborating more as compared to last 2 years. The last 2 years, the workload got increased. It means because of availability of technology, we are in a position to contribute during production, what are the problems are going to come. Proactively, we are trying to bring it to the table to the customer. So this is one very visible positive movement which has happened. Number two, the customers normally do the audit of the suppliers. That virtual audit has really come up really good. During that process, the timeline also got reduced. The number of audit which was supposed to happen with some time period, that also has got considerably up as far as customer is concerned. We have used the same opportunity during pilot when we are trying to do the manufacturing. We used virtual plant operation shown to our customer, which they have really appreciated. When the pandemic started, we tried this, and then the customer was very happy. So these are all the although NPD process integration has fetched best result out of it. This is over and above what Parna has told. Thank you.
Okay. Before I go to the automakers, I'd like to take this question to Mr. Venkatraman, Mr. Verma, as well as Mr. Yaram, whoever wants to go first. We're talking about the changed customer. Let's talk about the role that data will play in this, and how can analytics really help harness this data in better customer service. Mr. Venkatraman, you would like to go first? We can come to Mr.
Sure.
Verma and Yaram.
Yeah, I can just give a use case that we implemented very recently to get as an example to substantiate my point. Right, one of the major automotive company, they are basically have an onboard computer, and the onboard computer is purging data, and we basically plugged in a device which can basically real time move the data into the cloud. Okay, so the car is moving. There's by a lot of data produced by the car that is getting into the cloud, and then there is an engine in the cloud which is basically analyzing the data, right? So here are some opportunities. We are basically, let's say we are going to, from here to Mumbai, from Bangalore to Mumbai, in our expressway, right? And suddenly, there is something wrong in the car, right? The engine, there is something wrong in the car. So using the analytics on the data, you are able to identify proactively that there is something wrong in the car. And let us say the car is going to give you a message saying that, hey, here on the way, why don't you stop at this particular station or this particular service center, which is 120 miles away, 120 kilometers away, and go check your engine, get it fixed, and then go forward in your journey. So look at the customer experience in that way, right? Instead of you getting broken down in the middle of nowhere, the customer experience is that you're basically, the car is giving you a message saying that there is something wrong, go and check it, and you check it, they quickly fix it, and it's a seamless experience, right? So I think I mean, again, there are tons of use cases like this, right? So once you have the data, you basically can use it for predictive, proactive, customer experience use cases. Again, the limitless possibilities. I think, and I would definitely think that it's already happening. Hopefully, the Indian players start using it and start giving those experience to the customers as we go into the next 10 years.
Yes.
Sujat, I just wanted to add to
Yes,
what
Mr. Yadav.
Venkat just mentioned. In fact, when customers typically, and you and I as a consumer of a car, or someone who has a car, when we go to a showroom, typically we get to know, that there is X problem, Y problem, and typically there is a doubt in the mind of the customer that the service center guys are unnecessarily trying to, upsell or overall sell something to you. So what just Venkat mentioned, a lot of our customers are trying to embed some intelligence into the vehicle, so that when the vehicle goes to the service station people can connect, plug in something, and it will display based on the unique driving skills of that particular owner of the car. How much clutch is he giving, or if it's an automatic car, what is the speed, is it too slow, is it too fast, and what are the kind of service requirements that is giving, and whether the oil needs to be changed, the filter needs to be changed. So it is a very transparent way of advising your customer, and the decision is backed by data. So customer knows, okay, I did ABC or something, this is the current status of my car, and this is the extent of service that it needs. And if in the pandemic, I remember I used to get calls from my automotive garages or the OEMs asking me to come for service, whether it was 6 months or 1 year, when the car has just run some 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers. So the something of that kind. So I think that is also something which is getting embedded into intelligence, getting embedded into the car, so that there is that trust between the customer and the whole ecosystem of the OEM, and that becomes a win-win relationship for all the three parties involved.
Thank you, Mr. Yaram. I'll go to Mr. Verma before we come to the automakers to discuss. There must be a cost behind this. So how much is that cost, and are we ready with the investments for it? First, Mr. Verma.
I think the whole outcome of this digitization is data, data, and more data. I think you will have, I don't know, I heard some word zillion, or we will define maybe invent a new word, because this could go. I think while the opportunities are absolutely sky's the limit, and there are so many use cases. We can sit here and talk about hundreds of use cases. One of the things which should make this effective is to see what data to get and what data to analyze. If there could be so much of data floating around, there could be challenges in terms of identifying what is relevant data and what is non-relevant data. And in our zeal to analyze data, I think it's important, and that's where the solutions that we are looking at, and the solution providers, or the software solution providers who help in identifying or analyzing the data, need to sit with the OEMs to understand what data is relevant, and not spend unnecessary time on data which may or may not be relevant from that perspective. But as you said, the data is data is going to be power as you go along. Right from not only from the automotive perspective, but from all over, even in our daily lives, data is going to be power, and that's going to be what's going to rule the world. But this is one area where, as an industry, we need to be careful not to fall into the trap. That would be one point which I would.
Right, Mr. Verma, the much used and abused phrase these days, data is the new oil. But how do you choose which data set to use? How do you see through that data to actually harness the right intelligence? I'll come to Mr. Sahai. All of this has a certain investment that is, part of it. So, how important is this data? How much of investment do you think that the automakers are ready to make to harness the full capacity and the full potential of this data? Mr. Sai.
Yeah, thanks, Suchetna. So you're very right. So when it comes to automobile industry and investment and costs, so that's always there's always a challenge and there is always a business case that needs to be presented.
Right.
But then when you actually consider the opportunity, and then you take it as an opportunity, be it in terms of using the technology or adapting a new technology, then the entire outlook of the cost to be incurred for this project changes. I'll give you an example. Let's say an example on quality. Now we have a cost of poor quality. Now it's a business platform or a decision that the automobile industry needs to take. Whether you take a risk and invest at a later time by spending as a warranty cost, or you invest much before so that you ensure that those defects do not occur and they before occurring. I mean, it's not a corrective measure, but it's more of a preventive measure. So that's where those vision cameras and various tools are there that help you and aid you at the right inspection. So that's one cost I would say is on to ensure that your cost of poor quality is reduced. Having said that, when productivity is also taken care, so these cameras and vision sensors and technology, they also help you reduce the manpower. So you get an advantage of a productivity and a work content reduction there. So there are two ways of benefit that you see here. Then when you talk about the operational efficiency part of it, so that's the choice that you need to make, and that's where the conventional way of monitoring the leakages of the operational costs, they are mainly in terms of power, electricity, fuel, water, and others. Now, if you have a smart way of preventing you not only predicting or diagnosing where the fault occurs, it's about generating alerts. And that's where sometime back when you mentioned about the use of data, this is actually in an area where this data would be much of use, and in fact these industries and we are also starting to benefit from that. It's about these alerts. When they come from the data, these data have a control limits, and these control limits give you an alarm much before the actually leakages take place. So then you prevent the leakages of these energy, or let's say the operational cost to go down. So that's the use of a data. Now, when you talk about data, data is not taken alone in today's world. What you also have to have as a world to have to rebuild your skill set. So that's where the data scientists are now coming into picture. So as an operational, if I would say operation, you would require the automobile engineers, you would require the operation experts and the experts of processes. But what would aid is this data science who can help guide, analyze those data and build those algorithms along with the process experts and the and your automobile experts to generate meaning out of it. So that's when we say meaning out of it is call out an alert, call out a prescriptive way of managing things. So this is where when you think it in terms of in totality, then the cost comes down. So this is one on a business operation model which I talked about. Secondly, when you talk about now when you said it's also about connecting the customers. So when we talk about cost, it's also about the customers. Today, even for commercial vehicles, you have these customers who would like to understand their vehicle performance. So that's where this data now you have now these vehicles that we manufacture has more than 8 to 10 electronic control units. That's where when you talked about the chip shortage, see the amount of quantum jump in terms of control system that is added. Now each are able to tell you about the usage pattern of your engine, your transmission, your overall performance of your vehicle in terms of not only transmission but also on comfort levels and others. So which, for example, when we talk about these fleet edge systems, so these customers now, when they move, they know we have these telematics, which tells the drivers, they tell the fleet owners where the vehicle is moving so that they can actually, that's how Amazon and others are able to predict, now this is the time of delivery, and they are so accurate in predicting the delivery time. So these are all in totality when you talk, so these costs, the ROI is always less than a year. So you reap the benefits of. And by the way, this is the new business which is going to change the industry altogether. Few years back, it was only the automobile industry used to think that they are the ones who can lead. Now the reality is different, which we are all aware of. Anyone and any venture capitalist can now come and invest and become an automobile engineer.
Right. Yeah. I'll go to Mr. Balasubramaniam. At Toyota, how do you balance the investment and opportunities when it comes to optimal usage of data for better customer service?
Suchetna, I think you have asked a pertinent question regarding investment. In Toyota, what we see is basically before we invest, we look into the KPI that it is going to impact, be it be safety, environment, quality, like that. We have KPIs, and we would like to look into the immediate effect of these things on the KPI. Because we have seen over a period of time, the technologies are growing, but at the same time we should be careful in selecting the technologies. Some of the technologies are nascent in stage. We should not just because of the emotions, we should not put them into the practice. We first do physically the analysis portion of it, and we get convinced on the benefit that it's going to get. Then we try to invest on the this thing. And before doing investment, there will be sort of a benchmarking with other OEMs and other affiliate companies to find out the impact of these technologies. And we do a pilot study and implement. And just for your information, we have done such kind of implementations and reap benefit also, not only in terms of cost reduction, but also in terms of improving quality. Coming back to one point, what I think the panelist was saying about the benefit of data accrued from this digitalization technology, I'm connecting that to this question of this implementation of technologies in OEMs. What I'm trying to say is like, apart from the customer's experience in the car, the person who is driving the car, he gets a lot of information on the behavior of the car and components, and he gets alert, and he will do predictive maintenance. What I foresee is, if that is a possibility, it's very nice. If the data is transmitted to the supply chain, data of the performance of the component level to the MSME level, if it is possible to transmit, you can see a wonderful improvement of quality of the product down the line. So each MSME should be able to see the impact of the quality of the part on the overall performance of the final product. See, the benefits are like this. One is, maybe I'm overdoing a product, over valuing a product. I mean, the quality is not so much required, but drawing says so, but I do it, but in the actual performance, it is not so much required. If this is seen by a designer, seen by the supply chain, there can be a lot of value addition. VAVA can be improved a lot. So this is one of the key benefits of data transmitted to the end user. So this is my viewpoint on the data benefits. And yeah, regarding this implementation, I have told you this is going to be the story in Toyota.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Ghosh, would you like to respond to what Mr. Balasubramaniam was saying about usage of data and how it could help the entire MSME ecosystem within the auto sector?
Yeah, I think as you know,
Let me just add here, that is, we've also seen, as far as the MSME sector in India is concerned, whether it's in the auto sector or wherever, adoption of digitization has been slow there. There are other reasons for it. We know there is a reason of there are reasons for investment, etc. So how do you react to what Mr. Balasubramanian said?
yeah, for this thing, I'll come later on. So the first thing is like how data is helping. In our organizations, we are using 100 plus, live dashboards in all functions, whether it is HR, finance, materials, manufacturing, marketing, and those dashboards are giving us insights for predictive as well as reactive measures which are supposed to be taken in terms of various decision making. This is point number one. So data driven decision making is one of the topics we are, at least in our organizations, taking care of that, and we are looking forward to much more enhanced analytics in terms of data driven decision making. Coming back to your second point, which is like why MSMEs are slightly averse to digitization or digital transformation, or so on and so forth. Many times, what happens, the cost of data is less than the cost of IT tools. I'll give an example. Suppose your data value, I'll give a very bad example which we face every day. Or you get a lot of spam calls from all the telecallers, or
Telemarketers. Yeah.
many people are calling you on a day-to-day basis for banking, insurance, something. Now everybody is trying to sell you some products, okay, or some services. Now, are you ever like, what is the cost of your data? Suchetana Ray, this data cost is around 50 rupees to 700 rupees. 50 rupees is at the least, and 700 rupees is on the highest side. That means the people who are selling this data is selling it at that cost. Now, if you don't take the insurance, say for an example, or not the service, the person who has spent 700 rupees has gone into waste. Plus, he also incurred a call for you, plus some time allocation for that. So I think this kind of example we can put it in the B2B, the MSMEs also. When their cost of information is lesser than the cost of IT tools implementation, then they rapidly go for that, and there are many such examples I know. But when the cost of data is really not significant enough, I mean, then really do you want to spend money on the IT tool? So that is one of the way people think about it. But I can tell you one thing, at least in last, I will say 2 years, especially from March 2020 till now, right now, I have seen MSMEs and SMEs, and also obviously tier ones, twos, threes, something like that, at least in auto sector, is drastically increase the spending, especially in IT tools, whether it is cloud, whether it is big data implementations, whether it is analytics. Not everyone is going for analytics, but at least everyone is trying to build certain dashboards, certain use cases, and many such implementations or examples are coming up. So I think things are changing. Yes, maybe the data is not reflecting in terms of the IT buying as such, but a lot of proof of concepts and lot of experimentation is going on in this area. So I think you will see a lot of good results, and especially the digital India ecosystem, along with NASCOM and some other entities like CII itself. We have a lot of startups who we are willing to work with the MSMEs and also the large organizations. I think this ecosystem is also help and push the digital adoption and digital transformation in a large way for the MSMEs.
Right. I'll move to the next topic that I wanted to discuss because we're now running out of time. It is about what Mr. Sahai said, operational efficiency. And, when we talk about operational efficiency, we are also talking about the new shop floor and the impact that robotics has had on it. So whoever wants to take this question, please go ahead. Robotics and its impact on the shop floor, as well as its impact on job creation for the entire auto sector. Whoever wants to go first.
I can talk about the digital twin that's happening on
Sure.
the manufacturing sector, right? So if you look at, the industrial 4.0, etc. So what's happening is every manufacturing has a digital twin, which means that the data from each end point in the manufacturing process is basically fed into the system, and we are able to monitor end to end, right? Again, what that means is the data on what is happening in the shop floor is available in the system, and there you basically can start analyzing that data and bring in all the efficiencies into the shop floor as well, right? So that data also can be fed into basically your inventory system. The same data can be fed into basically your energy system. The same data can be fed into multiple such systems where across the board, let us say you can create a command center for that shop floor using the data and try to kind of improve efficiency in all the aspects of basically the shop floor, right? So those technologies exist. Those technologies are being put to use in lot of highly industrialized entities. It is just that the initial investment is required, right? That the initial investment to digitize, to create that digital twin, to create that ecosystem is essentially important. Similarly, right? I mean, I'll give you an analogy. For example, let's say suddenly we find that there is a lot of oil in somewhere in India. It's okay. You find out that there is oil, but somebody has to bore the well, pull the oil, and make benefit out of it. So you definitely require that initial investment to bore the well and take out the oil. Just saying that, hey, there is oil is not going to make any sense. And that's probably what a lot of us are doing, and not jumping in and start to bore and draw benefits out of it. Thank you.
Right. I'll go to
So
Mr.
Chetna, I
Ranganathan.
just-
Yes,
sorry.
Mr. Sai,
I
please
just
go ahead.
wanted to
No, please
put
go
one-
ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to put a perspective on the use of robotics.
Yeah.
See, while one very important use where we are finding it very fruitful is about operator fatigueness. See, many operations, they are done wherein they cause fatigueness to the operators. So that's where these technologies of cobots and others, they are actually they're working along with the human
Yes.
interface so as to reduce the fatigueness of the operator. So that's one aspect which, from the ergonomics part of it, that's
Yeah.
where technologies on digital twin and all are helping to simulate which are the areas where we can get used and get technology in terms of having a robots and a manipulators so that they can ease along with the operators for it. Second use of robots which we talk about is related to all your vision sensors. So they help in building the quality, predicting the quality as well as checking the quality. So these I thought would be very relevant uses of robotics apart from the conventional which is being used in the past. Thanks.
Very valid point, Mr. Sai. I'll come to Mr. Ranganathan with the question that, do you think that the higher adoption of robotics is changing the nature of jobs that a shop floor would create?
If you compare it with the pandemic situation, it is going to be very advantageous. That's number two. The adoption of any technology is not directly related to reduction in number of employees losing their job. There are a certain opportunity which is going to come, which will get observed. And the important thing in certain cases, when we did the end-to-end robotic automized, because of this cobot, etc., we are talking the certain cases, the robotic operations in some of the areas are not performing to its core. So we have eliminated in some areas that for that particular process, robot should not be there. Manual operation has to be there to increase the efficiency of the overall productivity time. So what I am trying to convey is, number one, it is not technology invention is not going to impact it, but 100% automation also will not solve the purpose in some of the cases. So it is a very specific case by case we have to see where it is going to give benefit, where it is going to reduce the manpower, and there is no bottom line that if we do this, we will get these results. It has to be tested and then subsequently deliberated for drawing out the right results.
Thank you, Mr. Ranganathan, Mr. Verma, Mr. Balasubramaniam, Mr. Yaram, or Mr. Ghosh. You want to go? You want to take this question about robotics and the changing nature of jobs that the auto sector is creating and its impact on the shop floor?
Yeah, Suchetna, I'll just add. I think Mr. Sai mentioned a very good point around the operator fatigue, and Mr. Ranganathan also spoke about the quality and automation there. So some of the use cases that we are working with our customers, especially in the automotive segment, is around the quality side of products. So how to analyze the defects in the products, and also give the intelligence back to the systems so that they can be rectified quickly, because there is a limitation to how accurately a human can analyze a defect on a component, or there could not be visually possible to inspect. Also, it could be cracks in the motor, or in the sub assembly. So there are a lot of automation which is an extension of robotics available, which is a combination of AR VR. So the systems are able to scan the whole product and figure out where the errors, or where the defects are, and able to communicate back. So anything that needs to be altered, the settings, the temperature setting, the pressure, or whatever in the production line, to ensure that those defects can be rectified upstream. I think that is something that we see working with many of our customers.
Right. I'll go to Mr. Balasubramanian first and then come to Mr. Ghosh and Mr. Verma on this. Mr.
I
Balasubramanian.
think I agree with the panelist regarding the utilization of robots. We have seen practically the utilization of robots not only in the ergo reduction, number one, but also we have seen the application of robot in areas where safety is of high concern, like man cannot go inside. So that's the where application we have seen being utilized very well. And also the cobots applications has helped a lot of ergo reduction as well as the muri or the burden of the operator moving around. So it is helping him. I wonder, I'm not sure it is being applied in operation theaters. I'm not sure. Assisting a doctor, giving him. I'm not sure about it. Maybe a day will come that will happen in
We'll
future.
get there very soon, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Already eye surgeries are happening using robots, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
So that is one application, and robots, and as we have seen in many vehicle plants, they extensively used for welding jobs, and it has migrated or graduated or evolved beyond that welding operations into even we have seen robots are used for handling a precision job. For example, grinding a small cutting insert being held by a robot for accurate grinding on a grinding machine with minute angle changes. So we have seen the application of robots, and it's of great help in the near future. But I would say it is not. I mean, replacing a man. A man is not losing the job because of robot. I would say man is given an opportunity to do better things. We can use
Right.
this
So it is
intelligence in the
changing
other
the
areas.
nature of jobs that are created, perhaps putting more
Yes.
stress on upskilling, perhaps.
Yeah. So upskilling opportunities are more, and he's relieved of all burden or safety related issues, and he is given better opportunities. This is my viewpoint.
Mr. Ghosh, and then I'll go to Mr. Verma.
Yeah, so as far as robots are concerned, if we go 30 years back or 20 years back, also we have seen robots in the shop floor. Especially, I can tell you, like we have Tata Motors, Toyotas, and
Yeah.
many other customers here. So, robots were there in their shop floors. I have seen all the plants many years back, I mean 20 years back, and especially in paint shop, in the welding shop, or maybe in the assembly also. Even in the assemblies, we have the robots in place for many ages. It's like ages. Now, how the I will say mass utilization of robots, maybe for the tier ones or tier twos or threes or something like that, is a question mark, and how it will really replace human being, and also bring in efficiency, safety, quality, productivity, maybe to some extent cost down also. So I think these are the things which are, I think, in the process, and as Make in India and other things will go on, we'll definitely get cheaper robots in India manufactured by Indian organizations, although there are few nowadays, but still things will evolve, and things will, come into place. And obviously, I don't believe like I think my previous speaker, I also believe on the same thing lines, that a robot really does not replace human beings. It really complements the human beings' work, and also ensures that the reskilling, deskilling, upskilling, cross-skilling, whatever you say, I think this thing helps in, supporting the job or the function or the process. Now, coming back to another point, in our organization, in digital manufacturing space, we are looking at software robots in a very large way. Recently, we have implemented a very large solution for bots. We call it our robotic process automations, and this is implemented for the complete invoicing cycle to the customers. We are also going to look at the accounts payable, accounts receivable, inventory, and many other areas. There will be implementation of RPS. So, robot, when you saw on the harder way, yes, there is a process going on the software side also. Things are going on very fast, and especially banking and other industries, insurance industries, they have very matured enough. In media, in fact, your industry, robots have really matured enough in lot of areas of activities. I'm talking of the software bots. Now, in the manufacturing and other automotive areas, I think these things are evolving, and slowly we'll see many organizations are implementing these things, basically ensuring accuracy and quality of data and speed. I think these are the three elements it will really disrupt. Thanks.
Mr. Verma?
Yeah, I think the panel has more or less covered the entire gamut. As I said, as been said by everybody, robots are going to complement and will complement the human impact. There's no running away from human beings. As we said, they're going to be present and doing things which humans can do, and areas where humans need not be present can be replaced by robots. And as we go along, as Mr. Ghosh said, the robo welding machines are maybe the first robos that I've ever seen in my life. So it has graduated from that to much more doing precise works, and as has been said by the other panelists, it will be used in areas where extreme precision is required or is also safety concern. So robots are going to be there, but not at the cost of human jobs. Human job nature is definitely going to change too, and to a much better, less fatigued work environment could come.
We just have about 5 minutes to go, and a discussion on the auto sector cannot be complete without talking about sustainability. So as Mr. Sahai was mentioning, opportunities versus investment. Sustainability, yes, there is a huge opportunity in the long run, but in the short run, it does entail investment. So I'll go around the table for your comments on India's COP26 commitments and whether you see it as an opportunity. How can the auto sector in India brace up for it? What are the kind of investments that all of this entail? Whoever wants to go first, and then I'll go around the table with this.
It's not Balu here. I will just first.
Yes, please.
This COP 26th conference of parties has given a lot of insight to the not only auto sector, many other sectors, and thanks to our Prime Minister's commitment of 2070 net carbon zero, is
Right.
going to be a very huge task, but at the same time very challenging, and also I would say it is satisfying in the sense that we are giving back to the nature something. So in that perspective, we see I say the first opportunity is in the energy sector. As Mr. Ranganathan used to say, this energy sector is going to play a key part in not only optimizing the resources what we have, and also going for green energy more and more. This we have to go as quickly as possible. What I feel is like we have got systems like SCADA system and many other systems. We have to harness the existing systems to understand the energy guzzlers in the company and identify and find. Maybe an engine has to run, what kind of countermeasures we should put in so that energy can be reduced. So this kind of primary or basic level of activities has to be done first, so that we eliminate these energy guzzlers from the plant. This is number one. And coming to the other areas where I feel carbon emissions are high, in the logistics area. As we see, logistics is a key role in the supply chain due to this tremendous GPS technologies, and also we have done practically the mixed logistics. That means we combine goods of many companies together and pull around and move, so thereby reducing the vehicles. This is also helping a lot in reducing carbon footprint. And also ZLD, zero liquid discharge, is one of the commitment we are going towards. All these activities will definitely move towards helping government to achieve carbon neutral.
Right. I'll come to Mr. Sahai. Tata Motors is already committed to going in, to sourcing 100% renewable energy. You've already achieved that target. And whether it is the raw material for the car to the steel that you use, that entire process you have moved towards making sustainable choices. But if we are to keep on that track and help India realize its targets, there'll be some investments that are required, right? So how do you balance that, the opportunities and the investment?
Yeah, so that's where the business model is being looked out, and that's the
Right.
challenges. One is about the collaboration part of it, and then bringing more partners, and then instead of going for a capex model to an opex model, where the investment is shared for the larger interest. So that's where the renewable energy and the alternative sources are going to help. CO2 emission, as we talked about, is going to definitely contribute towards that, and this zero liquid discharge. So that can only be possible when we have a collaboration and when we have things in totality.
Right. I'll come to Mr. Venkatraman. When you look around in the sector, what do you see? What are the kind of investments that the sector will have to do to ensure that sustainable choices are made? Do you think that the certain areas of the business model needs relooking?
I think the end of the day, I think there is, the auto players need to start investing in green fuel, right? Whether it be hydrogen fuel or fuel cell, or because end of the day, if you say electric, everybody thinks that electric is the way forward. But then let us say you buy an electric car, you charge the electric car from the conventional electric source, and the conventional electric source is actually producing so much of green energy, right? So it's not green. So again, which means that you're just shifting the problem. That's all it is. So I feel we have to move into different sources like hydrogen fuel cell, and things like that. And that requires all these companies to come together, pool investment, create technologies. Again, the technologies around that is there, but then the technology to get zero emission and ensure that the car is moving without producing anything that harms the environment. That's where if we have put the energy and the money, but all the paraphernalia technology is there to kind of operationalize and optimize it. But then the core is how do we kind of move the car with zero emissions.
Right. I'll come to Mr. Verma. The Okay, I'll come to Mr. Verma first and then come to you, Mr. Ranganathan. Mr. Verma, the two biggest challenges that got cited after India made its commitments at COP26, one was technology and the other was investment. So when you look at the auto sector, how do you think it plays out?
And as we all know, for India to meet the COP26 commitments, auto sector has to contribute in a very significant way. And if auto sector fails there, I think India will find it very difficult. As such, it's quite difficult to meet the commitments made by our Prime Minister. Now, investments need to be done, and the way to go for the investment, I would drive it in two separate segments, if you call that. Is that the first would be, I think, if the auto industry bodies can pool money and then have work on different research on areas which was highlighted, fuel cells or hydrogen or whatever it is, to make the vehicle. That's one way. But I'm very sure that the sector would definitely be looking for some sort of help or support from the government in terms of investment to meet these commitments. Because at the end of the day, I'm not sure if, I don't have any numbers to that, but others in the sector can know. But I'm sure, I think there's some sort of governmental help which the sector would look forward to, and I'm sure it would come through as the days progress.
Yes, I'll come to Mr. Ranganathan. You wanted to make a point.
We were talking about investments. If you see JBM, we are expanding onto EV battery manufacturing. Already we are manufacturing batteries. By end of this year, we will be coming with battery charging infrastructure. For example, using which you charge the vehicle. We are going to already invested. Things are in progress. And having said these two, there is another sector which is going to contribute to the power infrastructure. Power means, for example, if you want an electric vehicle to be charged, you need an electric charger, and behind that you need a power infrastructure. We are already heavily onto that also. Over and above the renewable solar and waste to energy. So as investment wise, if you see, it is very, very big. Yes, because the future is more focused on EV. We are into EV bus manufacturing also. So we are trying to put our foot onto the future, and then we have very heavily invested. Hope that things go the way we plan.
Right. I'll come to Mr. Ghosh and then come to Mr. Yaram. Mr. Ghosh, yes, there is the issue of giving back to the earth. When it comes to investment, do you think there is a midterm opportunity? Of course, there's a long-term opportunity, but what about the midterm?
Yeah, so if you look at the US, as a country,
Mhm.
they have a role called Chief Sustainability Officer, and it is going for last many years. In India, we
Yes.
have still not started that, but
Well,
anyway,
there are
I
many
think things
companies in India who have it, but yes,
maybe, yeah, you are right. So, like, I mean, this is a key focus area, obviously, not only from the government point of view, also from the industry, citizens, and everybody, all of us. Now, I was just looking at some data points. Automotive industry contributes 4.9% of the global revenue. I mean, if you see the global GDP, and automotive industry contributes 9% plus as far as global warming is concerned. So at least I will expect that this 9% should first come down to 4.9%. At least how much you are generating revenue for the globe. At least you generate so much of, I will say,
carbon emissions.
carbon emissions or whatever. I mean, at least come down to that level. Point number one. Point number two is, as far as India government is concerned, I think there is certain bit of confusion in the public mind. Like example, we are talking about renewable energy, we are talking about electric vehicles. So many things are there. Now, suddenly some information comes from hydrogen. I think the point is there has to be very clear strategy and a roadmap by the government, like what is going to happen by when. And like Ranga was saying, or some other people were also contributing, the infrastructure is extremely important. It's not about utilization of the fuel. The infrastructure many times is not there. Like example, I'll give you an example. If you go to the CNG petrol pump in Delhi, you will still see a lot of queues happening after, I believe, I don't know, 15 years after CNG is implemented in Delhi. Now, why this is still happening, or maybe 20 years? So this is
Lack of
happening because the
infrastructure.
infrastructure in the back end is not available. So in India, this is the biggest problem. So I will expect like some kind of PCO booths will come up for electric charging. Like earlier, used to have PCO booths, and suddenly those things vanished after the mobile, transformation happened in the country. So I think some kind of PCO booth culture will happen. Come hydrogen also, the government has to come out very clearly. What is the strategy? What will be the ecosystem? How much will be produced? How much will be consumed? What is the discharge in the environment? These strategies and the plan has to be really very sound. And if it really comes up very well, and I think a lot of bodies like SIAM, ACMA, CII, they are working with government to come out with the strategies in a very robust
Absolutely.
way and very clear way. Because public is really confused. I think that confusion has to be erased. Otherwise, another disruption will come, and every time some new technology comes, some new disruption happens. So it's better to clear the confusion and go ahead with the right roadmap. Thanks.
Mr. Yaram, we've spoken about the role of the government as well over here, and the entire ecosystem which has to brace itself for the disruptions that sustainability and the movement towards it will cause. Your comments?
Yeah, I think being a responsible, leader in the IT industry, we practice sustainability right from design and manufacturing. But from a
Right.
customer point of view, what we are trying to do is we are trying to ensure that whatever e-waste in terms of electronic waste that the customer have in terms of old systems, which are getting refreshed, we take them back and ergonomically dispose them, and we also give a certificate to the customer how they've been disposed, and they can also claim the carbon credits for the same. So this is something that we are doing for our customers.
Yes, Mr. Raghunathan, you want to say something? We've completely run out of time, so
I just
yes,
a minute.
sure.
In 10 years' time, the battery waste is going to create problem. There will be a separate industry who are going to consume that as their raw material. Let us see. Although we are trying to solve one problem, another problem is coming up. Like battery waste is going to be one of the biggest issue for future.
Thank you so much. We've completely run out of time. And the biggest testimony to an engaging discussion is when the moderator has almost 7 more questions to ask, but we've run out of time. That's how engaging this discussion was. I wanted to discuss the chip shortage and also discuss various other aspects of digitization, but maybe there will be another discussion where we'll all meet again as panelists and I'll be the moderator. And I'll take up those questions at that time. Thank you very much to all of you for taking the time out and joining me today here discussing the current state of digitization in the sector. Thank you, Mr. Ghosh, Mr. Subramaniam, Mr. Sahai, Mr. Ranganathan, Mr. Venkatraman, Mr. Verma, and Mr. Yaram for taking time out. It's been a pleasure being your moderator today.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Sujatna, for moderating this session. It was very insightful session, a lot of learnings for all of us. I would like to thank all the speakers for your time and valuable insights. With this, we come to an end of the session and we'll start the third session of the day, session on innovative technology from country partner Canada at 2:30 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.